Okay, so we have practiced on rationalizing denominators if we just had one term in the denominator. But this gets a little bit more complicated if we have two terms. So we have to do something different. I mean, if you think about it, if you had this first problem here, the square root of 6 minus 2, if we went by our same idea that we've been doing, and we multiplied top and bottom by the square root of 6, well, what we're going to end up with is 4 times the square root of 6 would be 4 square roots of 6. And here, the square root of 6 times the square root of 6, remember those would be squared, so it would cancel, and you would just have 6 minus 2 times the square root of 6 is 2 square roots of 6. We've not corrected the problem. We just shifted it over to another term. And then again, if we did the same thing, if we multiplied top and bottom by square root of 6, 6 times the square root of 6 is 6 square roots of 6. We're not going to get rid of the problem. So there has to be another way to deal with it. Well, in a previous section when we talked about multiplying binomials, we talked about multiplying by something that looked like this. When we multiplied by these, we said, look, this is really just a difference of two squares. And at that time, I told you that it would be really best for you just to practice distributing and then combining like terms and all of that business. I still absolutely think that that is true. But at the same time, we need to understand enough about it to know that that's why we're multiplying by this, because it does create that difference of two squares. And this is called the conjugate. The conjugate is really the same terms, just the opposite sign, so that it makes the difference of two squares. Now remember, we can multiply by anything we want to, as long as we do it to the top and the bottom, so that we're just technically multiplying by that 1. So let's see what happens when we do this. When we multiply 4 times both of those terms, we would have 4 square roots of 6 plus 4 times 2 would be 8 over. Now on bottom, we could distribute and combine like terms and all of that, but we are doing this for a reason. We're multiplying by the conjugate for a reason, so that we will have the difference of two squares. Now multiplying the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 36, which is just 6. And we do that on purpose. And then the signs are opposite, so it would be minus. 2 times 2 would be 4. By multiplying by that specific thing, we have forced that to be a difference of squares, and we didn't have to worry about that. Okay, now, we still need to clean this up, though. This would be 4 square roots of 6 plus 8 over 6 minus 4 would be 2. Now, do you notice that we could do some simplifying still? We absolutely can, but you cannot cancel amongst terms. So you can't say 2 goes into 4 2 times and just leave it. You need to factor out the numerator first. So in the numerator, we have 4 times, this would be the square root of 6 plus 2. In the denominator, which is really exactly what we started with, in the denominator we have a 2. Now we can do some canceling out common factors. 2 will go into 4 2 times. So simplified, this would be 2 times the square root of 6 plus 2. Now you can go ahead and distribute it back if you want, or leave it as is. Either way would be acceptable.